Hello, everyone. This is Michael from Portnox. Hello, everyone. It's Michael from Portnox. We'll go ahead and give everyone else a couple more minutes to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. One more minute, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, and welcome to Portnox's webinar on how mid-size enterprises can secure corporate Wi-Fi. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Mike Marvin. I head the marketing team here at Portnox. Now, just a quick note. I encourage everyone to ask questions in the chat window within the application during the webinar. There will be a Q&A session at the end where we will review and answer any questions that are thrown our way. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, my name's Mike, and I welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'm joined today by my colleague, Ron Fridberg. Ron oversees our solutions architect group and will be driving the demonstration part of our presentation today. And for today's program, we will be focusing on Portnox's cloud-delivered Wi-Fi security as a service solution. So first, a little about Portnox. Portnox is a pure-play network access control, or NAC vendor, founded in 2007. In 2018, Portnox redefined the traditional on-prem NAC market by introducing the first cloud-delivered NAC as a service, which we call Portnox Clear. Today, we have over 700 successful deployments worldwide across an array of industries, with offices in the US, UK, and Israel. Since the launch of Portnox Clear in 2018, we've seen our market presence grow by 142% throughout North America as companies continue to move away from on-premise to more cost-effective SaaS solutions. In fact, we were recently recognized by the research firm Frost & Sullivan as the mid-sized market leader in NAC-as-a-Service. But enough about us. Let's take a look at how we can greatly enhance your current Wi-Fi security. We continue to see companies securing their Wi-Fi with passwords. While this might be good enough for your home network, it's definitely not the level of Wi-Fi access security you should have for your company. First, passwords can easily be shared or become known to non-employees. A disgruntled ex-employee could easily gain access. Employees can easily connect non-company devices to the corporate Wi-Fi network. As a result, you'll find yourself constantly managing Wi-Fi password changes, which feels good, but really doesn't remove the risk. At the end of the day, password-based Wi-Fi access is not secure. Now, in a perfect world, you would obviously not use passwords to secure your Wi-Fi and eliminate password management overhead. Authorized employee Wi-Fi access would be automatic and use certificates. The same level of Wi-Fi security any Fortune 500 company uses today. Eliminate the risk of unauthorized access, and mind you, this is all done simply, quickly, and affordably. Fortunately, Portnox is here to make that perfect world a reality in a matter of minutes. Our Wi-Fi security as a service solution solves these current Wi-Fi security headaches by replacing passwords with certificate-based authentication, providing 802.1x, the highest level of Wi-Fi security and access control. And just as importantly, it can be deployed in minutes with no on-site hardware. You pay only for what you need as a simple SaaS service. Now, before we start the demo, let's quickly take a look at what configuration looks like within Portnox Clear. First, you can stand up your own dedicated Radius server directly within the service with just a click of your mouse. You simply configure your SSID to work with the Radius server you've just stood up. And lastly, configure your Wi-Fi authentication for certificates. Just like that, you're done. So my colleague Ron is now going to show us just how easy it is to actually configure all of this in Portnox Clear. Ron, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. First, we will take a deeper dive in the solution. Then we will go over a real use case of securing Wi-Fi SSID with Clear services. So here I am now logged into our demo environment of Portnox Clear, again, focused on the Wi-Fi access use case. The very first thing you need to do once you create your instance of Clear is to create your Radius service. So on Settings, Services, Clear Radius Service. It is already enabled here, but if we were just creating an instance, none of this would be checked. You can check only the relevant one for your region, or both if you have offices in different regions, and also for geo distribution. That instantly stand up everything in the cloud. The radio server, the redundancies, the load balancing, all of that stood up instantly. Then it provides the information you need to point your wireless controller or access points to radio service so your Clear instance can participate in the authorization of devices trying to connect. These are the details. Next, we are going to go to groups. I'll edit a clear group, for example, this sales team group. We want to provide Wi-Fi access for those users and their devices. First, you will need to decide who are the members of this group. That can be done by integration with authentication repositories such as Azure AD, G Suite, Okta, on-premise Active Directory, and also by company emails. For example, I will map one of the sales LDAP groups here. We'll map it to this group. Then we will need to add the Wi-Fi network, the SSID that we want to allow access for these users and devices. So I will add a new Wi-Fi network. Let's assume that this is the SSID name. Next, I will select the authentication type. Authentication type can be certificate or credentials. Certificate can be corporate PKI or clear certificates. Clear can be used as root CA as well. Credentials can be any credentials from the authentication repositories I mentioned before. We can also do both on the same SSID. I can add another authentication type, credentials. And now Clear will accept both certificates and credentials for the same SSID. We can also assign policies that this group is going to be defined under. The risk assessment policy, remediation, and access control. For the risk assessment and remediation policies, Clear Agent, which is called Agent P, is required. So next, I'm going to show you how simple it is to build these policies. So we'll move under policies. And risk assessment. The risk assessment policy is continuous awareness of the risk, the definition of compliance. I will edit it. The following platforms are supported: Android, iOS, Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux. Let's suppose we are in Windows environment. So we look from a Windows perspective and can see the current attribute that Portnox can track from a risk posture perspective. For example, application list. We want to make sure there are specific applications installed on the devices, or there are applications that are not approved to be installed on the devices. Firewall need to be enabled. Make sure antivirus is up, running, and up to date, and many other options as you can see here. If we focus on the antivirus, for example, it would contribute a risk of 100 to devices with no antivirus. And here is the access control for this group policy. You can see that in 100, it puts it at a block category. So even if everything was good, the certificate, the credentials for the .1x authentication, because it's at a high risk, we would not allow it to connect to the Wi-Fi network. We'll move to remediation policies. Remediation is proactive measures you can take on the endpoint, whether it's on or off the network. The agent can take these actions to help keep the device in compliance. I will edit it so you can see the type of items, actions that we can perform on the endpoint. Make sure that antivirus is always up and running, firewall is started. Maybe you want to make sure that the device is never breached. You can make sure that USB devices cannot be connected to the device. You can also set additional action by using the login and periodic script that give you the flexibility to go beyond the current built-in items. Next, access control policy. We have an option to dynamically move the device's VLAN. We can set a policy to move the devices to be dedicated to a dedicated VLAN after successful authentication. Also set the VLAN for device that failed authentication, or if there is a risk violation. For example, we can move devices that failed authentication to quarantine VLAN 25 with internet access only, or any other access you will decide. Of course, we can also just deny access and not allow the connection. You also have a great visibility into the devices. I'll go under the devices view. I'll expand say a few devices, and we can see here the device, this Windows device got a score of 90, risk score of 90. If I will click here, I can see why it's at this risk score. We can also see additional detail on devices. If I click on this Mac OS X device, more details, I can see security products, applications, certificates, services, open ports, a lot of useful information. All is searchable. So for example, if I want to create a filter, a search for all the devices with risk score that is more than 40, I can easily create that. In this case, we have 3 devices, as you can see here. So great visibility here. Next, we're going to move to a real use case demo. So in this video, we will demonstrate how in a few minutes you can secure your Wi-Fi network. We will see the quick process of converting Wifi-as-a-Service that works with PSK, pre-shared key, to 802.1x with certificate-based authentication. We will also demonstrate clear capabilities around access control, risk assessment, and remediation. In this setup, we have Meraki access point with SSID configured, Windows 10 device, and clear account. The SSID name is CorpNet3, and which is configured to work with pre-shared key, as we can see here. Let's connect the Windows device to this SSID. We are prompt for the key, which is basically a shared password, and that's the only required authentication for this SSID. As we know, employees tend to share the password with guests, visitors, contractors, which means that your corporate or BYOD SSID is not secured. Let's disconnect. Now we'll change the SSID security to .1x with radius service. In this example, we are working with Meraki, and this is how it's configured. We will select enterprise with radius server, and we need to type the clear radius instance details. In clear UI, we will navigate to settings, services, clear radius service. And as demonstrated before, we have a radius instance that can be set up within a few seconds. We will update the radius details in the Meraki config. And we can see that the SSID security is now .1x with radius. Next, we will go to clear groups settings and add the CorpNet3 SSID as an approved SSID. We select .1x with certificates. Once we are doing this configuration, the authentication to this SSID is certificate-based only, and of course, only the trusted certificates by Clear. We'll save the group and back to the endpoint. We'll connect to the same SSID, which is now protected with Clear and allow only devices with trusted certificates to connect. The device was connected successfully, and we can also review the alert in the alert page. We see success authentication with certificate. Next, let's see some of the risk assessment capabilities. In policies, risk assessment policies, we'll edit the relevant policy, select Windows OS, and in this example, we have the antivirus attribute set to a risk score of 100. It means that if the device will not have antivirus app running and up to date, the device score will get to 100, which lead to block action, as we can see here. In addition, we also have access control policy, which is set to move devices with risk violation to a quarantine VLAN. In this example, VLAN ID 25, while the production VLAN is VLAN ID 1. The quarantine VLAN with limited access can be internet only or any other access the admin decides. On the device, I execute a command to be able to demonstrate to you what is the current IP address and VLAN of the device. IP subnet of 10.0.1 is for the production VLAN, VLAN ID 1. And this is the current device IP since it was connected successfully. Now we'll turn off antivirus on the device. In this case, it's Windows Defender, but any antivirus vendor is supported. Once identified, on the alert screen, we can see the alerts, which indicates the device reached block level due to policy violation. Antivirus is not running, and another alert of device was blocked, disconnected immediately from the network, and was moved to VLAN 25 as set in the access control policy. These alerts can also be sent via email or to SIM-SOC system via syslog or in JSON format. On the device, if we run the same command to see the IP address and VLAN, we can see that the device has IP from the 10.0.25 subnet, which indicates it's no longer connected to the production VLAN, which is VLAN 1, but was moved to the quarantine VLAN 25 in our example. Next, we will configure remediation action. On the UI, we go to Policies, Remediation Policies. For Windows, we select Start Antivirus. Save the policy, and back on the device, the antivirus is turned back on. Now, the risk score is changed since the device is in compliance. So the device will be moved back to the production VLAN. As we can see here in the alerts, it was authenticated successfully. Back on the device, we expect the IP address to be on VLAN 1, and we can see that it was placed back in the production VLAN. On the alert screen, we can also see an alert on prevention action executed, which was the antivirus turned on. That is the high-level demo and presentation on how you can secure Wi-Fi access. Mike?
Perfect, Ron. Thank you so much. So it looks as if there's no questions right now, but I have a question. Do I need to change any existing Wi-Fi network infrastructure?
No, there's definitely no need for that. The only thing need to be done is to change the security of the SSID and point it to work with clear services.
Really that simple?
Yeah.
Great. I have another question as well. Is a user notified when a policy violation occurs?
Yeah, once there will be with Agent P implementation, once there will be a policy violation, the end user will get notification about the violation. Yeah.
Okay, and then one last question. Which directories does Clear offer integrations with?
So we have integration with on-premise Active Directory, Azure AD, G Suite, Okta, and any open LDAP directory as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ron, for sharing that with us. But
thank you, Mike.
It seems as if we're at the end of the session. I'm going to open the floor up to anyone if you have any questions. I'll go ahead and give you a couple of minutes. Seems as if we're not getting any responses here. I really appreciate everyone taking the time out of their busy schedules to attend today's webinar. Ron, thank you so much for your support here, and we look forward to speaking with any of you moving forward. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.